Hi friends, this is Selvajit here. Welcome to my networking channel. And today I'm going to discuss about dynamic NAT and PAT. So the last video I shown how to configure the static NAT configuration. And this video let us see how to configure the dynamic NAT and the PAT. So this is an architecture where I connected two different hosts to NAT router and NAT router is connected into a server, right? So let us first discuss about the dynamic NAT configuration. So before that, let us configure the directly connected interface of host 1, host 2, and then I have to configure the connected interface for NAT router. Then I have to configure the NAT inside and the NAT outside command. So now let us go to the configuration, go to host 1, and let us configure the directly connected interfaces. So what is the interface name is fast Ethernet 0 by 0, right? So go to the things configuration and interface fast Ethernet 0 by 0. IP address is 192.168. This host address will make it as 1.1 255.255.0 followed by the no shut command. The similarly you'll configure host 2, right? Configuration mode interface faster than 0 by 0 and the IP address is 192.168.1.2 255.255.255.0. Then we'll activate the interface, right? So host and host 2 I have done. Now let us go to the NAT router and configure the directly connected interfaces. Switch not necessary to configure, this is a layer 2 switch. So the NAT router I am going to configure the inside interface and the outside interface. So go to the NAT router and let us configure the interfaces. So fast Ethernet 0 by 0 and 0 by 1, right? So interface fast Ethernet 0 by 0 and the IP address is 192.168.1.254. This is an inside local address, right? 255.255.255.0. Since it is an inside interface, I would specify NAT inside, then activate the interface. Similarly, configure the outside interface, right? Fast Ethernet 1 and followed by the outside interface is 2.254. Interface name is outside interface, right? NAT outside. Then activate the interface. So this is done. So now let us configure the directly connected interfaces for server, right? Go to server and configuration mode interface fast Ethernet 0, right? Fast Ethernet 0 by 0 and the IP address let us give us 192.168.2.1 255.255.255.0 followed by the no shut command. So I activate the interface, right? So now let us configure the translation rule. So this is a dynamic NAT which is used to map a unregistered address. There's a private address to the pool of registered address. So we will take the registered address from the pool of registered address what we have configured. So what we can do, go to the NAT router and I'm going to specify the pool of registered address. How to specify is go to IP NAT pool. Pool name is pool1, right? And followed by the registered address. Let us give us 191.168.2.5. This is the registered address we'll give 191.168.2.254, right? And the prefix length we'll configure as 24. So this I configure. Then we'll specify the access list. Access list followed the access name 1 is 1, access name 1, permit statement followed by the inside address. Inside address I have given the range of 1.0 to 1.24. Okay, so 192.168.1.0 followed by the 0.0.0.255. While because this is a wildcard mask, since it's a 24-bit address, so I specify as 1.0 to 0.0.0.255. So I specify the access list, then I have to map this access list to the pool, right? So IP NAT inside source list 1. Source list 1 is nothing but mapping this access list number 1 followed by the pool name. So pool is the pool of registered address. So this I specify the pool name, I have to configure the registered address. So now what I have to do, I have to configure I am going to disable the routing and I am going to configure the default gateway for this host 1 and host 2, right? And also I have to configure for the web server. So go to host 1 and disable the routing. No IP routing. Now I'll configure the default gateway. Default gateway is 192.168.1.254 and similarly I have to configure for the host 2, right? No IP routing. Then I have to configure the default gateway. That is 192.168.1.254. Then similarly go to the server and I'm configure. This is 2.254. This is a gateway server gateway, right? So go to server. Similarly go to configuration mode no IP routing followed by the IP default gateway is 192.168.2.254, right? So this I have done. So what are the things I have done is first I have configured the directly connect interface for host 1, host 2 and server and the NAT router. I specify the interface NAT inside and the NAT outside. So then since it is dynamic NAT is map an unregistered address to a pool of registered address, right? So I have to specify a pool of registered address. That's a public address I have to specify, and that pool I have to map in the access list. So access list is nothing but I have to specify all the inside address. That means the inside address will be automatically mapped to the registered address from a pool of registered address what I already configured. So now let us go to NAT router and check the translation, right? Show IP NAT translation. Since not there, so I'm going to generate a traffic. So go to host 1 and ping the web server address. That is 2.1, right? Ping from host 1 and host 2, 192.168.2.1. So let us ping from both. They are able to ping, right? Host 1 and host 2. So now let us see the translation. Show IP NAT translation. So now we're able to see the translation, right? So what happened? The inside local address, that is I have specified two hosts, 1.1 and 1.2. So both got translated, 1.1 and 1.2. It got translated to the public address, right? Inside global I already specified as 2.5. So it will take the pool of it will take the registered address from the pool of registered address. So this is a registered address I configured pool is, right? 2.5 to 2.54. It will take the first registered address, that is 2.5. So all the host is configured to the same registered address, right? You are able to see 2.5, and the second host 1.2, it is configured the 2.6. It takes the registered address from the second pool. One is 2.5 to 2.254. So the first host is mapped to 2.5 and the second host 1.2 is mapped to 2.6, right? So this is how the dynamic NATing works. It is used to map an unregistered address to the registered address from a pool of registered address. I hope you understood this. So now what we can do, let us now configure the PAT, right? Port address translation. So before that, let me clear the translation table. So there is a NAT table, I'm going to clear it. So I clear the translation table and let us remove the configuration. No IP, NAT, pool 1, and I'm going to remove the access list, right? Access list 1, and also no IP, NAT inside, source list 1, pool 1. So now let us configure the PAT. So what is PAT is? PAT is used to configure the multiple unregistered address to the same registered address. So it is going to configure only the same registered address but with the different ports. So you'll see the single registered address but with a different port number. So let us configure this. Go to the NAT router and go to configuration mode. And what you can do, you can specify the IP NAT inside source list 1 interface. So you have to specify the outside interface, right? Fast Ethernet 1, right? So fast Ethernet 1, I hope you are following. Fast Ethernet 1, and I have to specify the keyword. Keyword is overload. So you have to specify the, since it is a PAT, I have to configure this as overload NAT. So then I have to specify the access list number, right? Access list number 1. So this both should be same. This list 1 and the access list 1 should be the same. Go to permit statement followed by the inside address. Inside address is 1.0, right? 1.02 0.0.0.255. So this is how the pad we can configure. So I configure the pad. So now let us check the show IP NAT translation. So nothing will be there. So I have to generate traffic from host 1 and 2. Let us ping the web server address 2.1, that is right, 2.1. So we are able to ping. So now let us see the translation table. So we're able to see the translation table. What you're able to see, both the host 1 and 2 map to the same register address, right? So you're able to see 1.1 is for host 1 and 1.2 is the second host address. 1.2 is the second host address. So both got mapped to the single address, right? So it take the from the pool of register address. So it got mapped to the single register address 192.168.254, but with the different ports, right? So this mapped to the port number 4 and this mapped to the port number 0. So the same way if you have multiple address, it will be configured to it will be mapped to the single register address but with the different ports. So that is the difference between dynamic NAT and PAT. So PAT is used to map the unregistered address to the same registered address but with a different port number. So that is the purpose of PAT. So PAT is nothing but a port address translation. So this is how we can configure the dynamic NAT and PAT. I hope you understood. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe me for more videos. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.